Well, so we had to do the discussions this morning, and I have, well, we always fire each other, but Dr. Clement Park is a member of Parliament for Busa South. He's in the studio. Thanks for joining me. How are you?
It's always a pleasure. Greetings from Busa South. I just came back from Fumbisi and surrounding settlements in my constituency.
Yes,
this was given to me by some of my constituents.
Wow.
Baba Gadiak, Caesar Kinkan and Co. And, so I appreciate it. So Mateba Jam, I thank them.
Okay. Yeah. Mateba Jam. And the man himself, Emmanuel Chamantingeja, Member of Parliament for Ayawatu West Worgon constituency, is also here. Thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you for having me.
How was your week? Good?
Very well.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Okay. And thanks for passing by through. And we have a story dominating the front pages. It's about soldiers protecting Galamsey sites. And apparently the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, John Peter Amewu, and John Peter Amewu seemed to be giving an indication of something that is happening differently on the Galamsey site when he visits with his task force, particularly in some of the areas in which apparently he's not allowed onto some of the concessions just because military men allegedly seem to be guarding those areas, leading to some contradictory statements from the defense minister, his deputy, etc., etc. Now, the Minister of Defense says that some investigations will be undertaken on the matter. But we're here to speak on the subject. And I have to start with you, Mr. Chamantingeja. This seems to be a bigger issue than many of us seem to think, because we know that it should ideally be having a stakeholder approach and a buy-in approach from government, shouldn't it?
Well, thank you once again, and good morning to my very dear friend, Dr. Park. I'm always happy to be here with you, and good morning to listeners and viewers, actually. Yeah. I think that the resolve of His Excellency the President to confront this menace is not in doubt. I have heard him say that people have said that they will vote against him, and he says that, well, he holds his position in trust and he will do what is right by the good people of this country. I mean, let's face it. So let's continue to do Galamsey. The day all the gold finishes, what happens? All the land will finish, and all the water bodies will finish, and all the forests will finish, and all of us will die. I mean, it is long term. It is not a sustainable situation that anybody should say that is the only thing for me to do to survive. It's not. Number one. Number two, I think that we all know that this is not a very easy situation. We have heard in the past that all sorts of people, politicians, traditional rulers, security people, and everybody, all and sundry, every facet of the Ghanaian polity is accused of being involved and fueling this menace. Okay, so tomorrow or today, if we hear if I hear the Minister for Defense say that soldiers, quote and unquote, are involved.
Actually, the Minister for
Lands and Natural Resources.
Lands and Natural Resources says that soldiers are involved in this. It might not be surprising, because I think it is not new. It is something that has been speculated for a long time. But first and foremost, let me place a caveat. Are they really and truly soldiers? Or they are just people who have just gone and gotten accoutrements and are posing as soldiers? Today, it is possible to have an AK-47. It is possible to have the fatigues.
Well, true.
Yeah. So first and foremost, we must establish whether really and truly they are soldiers. And I think that the approach of the
defense minister
is perfect. He says that he has directed the chief of defense staff to look into this. Okay. Let us first and foremost establish the identity of those who say they are soldiers. If they are soldiers, let the martial law deal with them. per adventure. They may not even be soldiers at all. They may not be enlisted. They are just passing off as soldiers. But this can only be established by an investigation. So if anybody says anything else, I think that we shouldn't give any credence whatsoever to it. We must, I think the Minister for Lands and Forestry has stated something as a matter of fact. His counterpart, the Minister of Defense, says, I will look into it. We are sitting here as discussants and saying that we have heard the stories. We have heard the rumors. Maybe they are, maybe they are not. Let an investigation determine what it is, and then we can go forward with the matter.
Dr. Park, ideally, same ministers, they should be calling each other, and we shouldn't be hearing this in the media.
Yes,
to me, it portrays a different kind of perhaps interactive, communicative platforms or levels on which they are.
Yes, Roland, let me say good morning to you. Good morning to my senior, you know, and my MP as well. I'm still, you know, a staff of the University of Ghana, currently on secondment.
Okay.
So as long as I continue to be a lecturer, he would always be my MP.
Okay.
And let me say good morning to viewers, particularly the constituents of Bulsa South. Matebasolu. But to the substantive issue, you have asked a very profound question. And I think that we need to analyze it a lot more, because it goes to the core of perhaps some level of dysfunctionality in government. This is not the first time that we are seeing ministers contradict each other, and as far as this new government is concerned. And giving the level of attention that the fight against Galamsey has received, by virtue of the fact that we all recognize that this menace is inimical to our survival, and the role that is being played by the media, one would have expected that the ministers of state and their deputies would be singing from the same page of the hymnal. So if the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and his two deputies who have been in the field can report on a personal basis of going to a particular site where they encountered the presence of military personnel, and even names were quoted. If you read the Times report, one Colonel Ahin was indicated as being the superior who authorized those two military personnel who were in front of the entrance to the concession. So the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources is very certain about what he saw, and the fact that he believes clearly the military somewhat is complicit, or elements within the military may be complicit in the use of their skills and talent to protect people who are engaged in activities not useful to our well-being. And I think that indeed I would agree that I heard the reportage of the Minister for Defense, who didn't argue against what the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources had said, but said that, you know, the case will be referred, or the complaint or the allegation will be referred to the CDS. He has referred it to the CDS to investigate. But what is surprising is the comments that came from the Deputy Defense Minister, you know, another colleague in Parliament. He adopted a total defensive mode, and his comments were emphatic about exonerating and arguing about the possibility of any personnel of the Ghana Armed Forces being involved in Galamsey. And I think that definitely goes against the grain. And I think this is where people are beginning to ask questions. Are they meeting to discuss, to appraise? Are they sharing information? If that is the case, why should the Deputy Minister for Defense's comments be contradicting what the Minister for for Lands and Natural Resources, and even his own boss has said? Yeah. So something is not right. And look, I've said it. I've argued severally that, you know, there is no cabinet, and I believe that if there was a cabinet, all of these types of conversations would go on. This is obviously a very important national effort, which I believe would have come to cabinet for strategic discussion. Perhaps even a cabinet subcommittee would have been put together to coordinate and ensure that.
What do you mean by there's no cabinet?
Do you know of a cabinet? If you know, let me know, and which minister sits in it. If there was a cabinet, I would have assumed that at least the Minister of Defense would sit in there, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Minister for Interior. So there will be that free flow of information. And if the ministers were meeting and speaking about these things and looking at strategy at the cabinet level, obviously they will appraise their deputies. So for me, quite clearly, something is not going right. But be as it may, we all agree that this Galamsey menace has now reached its peak, and if nothing is done, the consequences are going to be dire. And we expect government to prosecute this in a very systematic way.
But government is doing that.
No, we support them. I have said it severally. I don't have a problem.
But don't create a certain scenario as if that, well, we don't have a commitment of government.
But if a deputy minister is challenging
the
information,
the president has even been outside Ghana and reiterated that.
But we have done that. When we were in government, we did it.
Did you hear the president when he was meeting, is it Alassane Ouattara, when he visited La Côte d'Ivoire?
I have not argued that the president is not you know, with the agenda.
Okay.
But it is not only the president. The president alone cannot win this battle.
Yeah. He cannot do the work alone.
We did it. We did our best. We were successful.
You didn't do
to some extent. They are doing it as we speak today. Even the deputy minister for Roads at Lands and Natural Resources, Benito, just yesterday he was on one of your sister stations. He indicated that somewhere in the Ashanti region, they had gone and they had seen people still engaged in Galamsey.
Yes.
They were fortunate to have apprehended one person who was in a pit. Then they heard a sound across a grove. And when they made their way there on foot, they noticed that 10 of the Sinn Féin machines, these, you know, customized Chinese, were on a tributary of one of the main rivers. 10 of them. And the guys on the boats were laughing at them and teasing them.
Because you can't enter the water.
They shot a few warning shots.
That's all.
And the guys were just looking at them. They couldn't do anything about it.
Because they were in the middle of the water.
Fantastic.
And you can't go. You don't even have the accoutrement.
The point I am making is that this is a Herculean fight. It requires all of us. It is not a fight that is just going to be won today or tomorrow. And so the fact that we were not able to totally win the fight didn't mean that we didn't put in an effort. They are doing it now. We are all behind them. And it is still happening.
Okay. We do understand.
Well, I am glad that my colleague, I find him very pragmatic.
He's playing the politics and trying to be straight on the other.
I will come to that, but I am happy that he is explicit in his support for what is happening. I want to believe that it is not him, a person I find very fair and balanced, but that the total leadership of his party, the NDC, will be able to speak to the matter as he is speaking to the matter now. Of course, he is trying to play some politics with the unfortunate statement that has been made by a deputy minister. But you see, for me, the matter is sealed. A minister of state,
the substantive, yes.
A substantive has made, and really and truly, I don't see what was so wrong. I think that they were in the field and they were encountered. And there were newsmen there. He didn't go somewhere and come back to Accra and not sit and find out. This was on the spur of the moment. They had gone with newsmen and this matter had happened. Okay. So I cannot see a disconnect in governance. It is not there. This is something that was real time, and he spoke about it. Okay. The Minister of Defense graciously comes back to say that I have ordered the CDS to look into it. So why is that what has this got to do? What has this got to do with there's cabinet, there's no cabinet?
We've been doing this for some time now. So is the best directive from the defense minister to his chief of defense staff not to be a directive that will give all indications that there's no personnel of the military who is expected to be giving orders to a subordinate or a group of subordinates to go guard any Galamsey concession or perhaps any small-scale mining concession.
Yeah.
Because be it that it may, we know the minister has put a hold on all forms of licensing and activities of small-scale mining in the meantime. That creates a certain challenge, doesn't it?
I can't wrap my mind around what you're saying. But you see, the point is this. Otherwise, if you do not investigate a matter, how do you establish the veracity or otherwise of it?
Well, true.
I am saying that the minister, I don't want to deal with anybody, I don't want to deal with subordinates. At that level, the minister has said that when I was on the field, and I was there with newspaper people, they saw what happened. Our military people, and they mentioned names. We are here because we have been directed by a certain Lieutenant Colonel Ahin. You know, the trees of a say that as a Bonington here today, it is because of bad things. That is why he's called Clement Apache and I'm Emmanuel Ejaku.
So that he could be traced.
So I can be traced.
Google location.
Names have been mentioned. The only way to establish the veracity or otherwise is to investigate. Let's discount what anybody else says. A deputy minister is not a minister. I think that let us look at this. This has nothing to do with who is a cabinet, who is not cabinet. All of this is.
Do you know whether there's a cabinet in place?
I have not chanced on a list.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they are meeting. Even though there may not be a formal, maybe you've not seen any formal list, but definitely you are not saying that the president rules the country without meeting his men.
But how would we know?
Oh, please.
I mean, do you know?
Dr. Paxson.
No, do you know?
What do you need to know?
I mean, but we need to know.
Are you saying that the president is governing this country without meeting his men and women?
His men and women in what capacity? The Constitution makes provision for the formation of the cabinet.
I think you're talking about just legalities.
No, but it's important. Why else would the Constitution speak about
you guys must change your narrative. You guys must change your narrative.
It's relevant.
These things don't win.
5 months in office and we don't know who sits in cabinet.
These things don't win elections.
No, I'm not talking about it. It is a constitutional requirement. And indeed,
if we get back to Parliament,
I will file a question.
Okay. Is that you change your tactics?
I will file a question because we have a right to know whether the president has proposed a cabinet
it's a legitimate
and
question.
who sits in cabinet.
Please ask.
So that we can hold them accountable.
Please ask.
There's a reason why the Constitution...
The Millennium Development Authority has shortlisted 6 applicant companies under the concession for the private sector participation in the electricity distribution of the ECG. The companies are to bid for the concession, and the preferred selected concessionaire will be taxed to make investment that's designed to reduce technical, commercial, and collection losses while improving. Yesterday, I heard the energy minister talk about how they want private participation of local content, etc., at least in the majority stake and all that. At the end of the day, this seems to be at variance to what the unionized workers are saying in terms of what the parent union is saying about whether it's going to improve the sector, it's going to improve the well-being of ECG or not. But we know we've advanced far with this process, Mr. Chamate Ejako.
Well, I think that this second compact was negotiated and agreed on as far back as 2014.
Right.
And what we must clearly understand is that the compact is virtually an act of the American Congress. It's the American Congress agrees and appropriates some money for some specific things. And they don't do it with loose ends. It is a program. The Congress has evaluated, debated, and passed a law as it were. Okay. Government agreed some steps. As far back as 2014, this was sealed. I mean, let us all not pretend as if this is something that has just happened, after the 7th of January 2017. As far back as 2014, the issues were clear. It was about implementation that was left. Okay. But the issues were very, very, very clear. That as part of restructuring our energy sector, there was a need to do something with Electricity Company of Ghana. And what needed to be done had been settled by 2014. Okay. You know, for me now, the challenge is that, so the alternative will be to go back to the Americans and say, we are abrogating. And I don't think it is tidy. I don't think it is tidy at all. In any case, I think that the questions that we need to be asking is that really and truly, is Electricity Company of Ghana achieving its potential? This is a company that government's investment over the last 40, 50 years runs into several billions of dollars. Number one. Number two, if you put in so much, are we getting any return? You may say that it is a public utility and that you don't seek profitability or too much profitability, but at least you must be breaking even. We are not doing all of these things. Okay. I have read that a projected collection must be 140 million cedis a week. You are collecting
101.
100.
The workers claim they are collecting 101, even though, according to what the ministry has, is far lower.
Let's assume that what the workers are saying is right.
It's
that if your budget is 100 and is it 30 or 40?
130.
30. And every week you are losing 30 million. Roland, it is not sustainable under any guise. So it means that 30 times 50. In a year, you are losing 1.5 billion. You see, if you don't pay for it, it becomes a contingent liability on government. Because government is 100% owner of this. I mean, we must agree as a nation whether we will allow this situation to continue and we pay tax to subsidize this. It's as simple as this. But you see, for me, the reality is that world over, there are utility companies, electricity companies that are making profits.
Elsewhere in the world.
Elsewhere.
Is making profit.
Next door. Countries next door. The choice we have to make as a people is that should we continue to subsidize? It's a subsidy. If you have to collect 130 and you collect 100, every week there is an outstanding of about 30 million cedis. Somebody must pay for it. It will come from tax. So what we need to do is to determine, is this the way forward? Okay. I can understand. For me, I think the real issues are that the people, the workers in the Electricity Company of Ghana feel that when you want to create, you want to have efficiency gains, sometimes it comes with rationalizing staff and cost cutting and all of this, and they will be impacted. I can clearly understand, human beings, the primordial instinct is survival.
Survival, yeah, yes.
It is primordial.
I'll give you
in civilization, we all want to. In evolution.
Yes.
In evolution, our prime objective
you are
is to survive.
venturing into my area.
Yes, it's primordial. So you see,
Human
I can
anthropology.
understand the positions they are taking. But how I would have wished that as far back as the compact was signed in 2014. The negotiations began way before, I think 2 years before. Apart, you're in government, so you know.
I was.
About 2 years before.
It was
It started
2012.
earlier, yes.
It started,
so
it started during the last year of Atta Mills.
In the process when all of this was going on, you should have made the inputs. Why do you come crying after the line is drawn? It's difficult. But I really and truly think that the choices before us are that we should continue to pay the subsidy, or we must find a way to stop this. And for me, it is trite knowledge. the private sector tends to do things much better than the public. And it happens everywhere. Even in People's Republic of China, they have come to the realization that if the private sector runs businesses, they do it much better than the public sector.
So
well,
in summary, we can't eat our cake and have it.
Well,
Can we do better?
By and large,
if let's say we have a concession.
By and large, I agree. It is obvious that these processes began when we were in government. But what I find interesting is that, you know, my colleague and senior here, when they were in opposition, seemed to have some sympathy for the workers and the groups. But we were accused severally.
I think they still do in some.
You know, I was here on this same program with, I don't know whether you were the host, but with Abu Ramadan.
I was.
And you remember this issue came up,
yes,
where he accused us of engaging in an effort to privatize ECG. And so the question is this: what has changed? The modalities are the same, the reasons and the justifications are the same, and yet they had an issue with the operationalization of this same compact.
I think the operationalization has moved. It has changed substantially.
No, but what has changed, what has been laid out,
okay,
is exactly what we bequeathed to them.
No.
Well, and you said that when you deal with the Americans.
Let me interject.
And the way
it's not the same. It's not the same.
What has changed?
25 years is not the same as 20
yes.
years.
Now it's being reduced to 20 years instead of 25. And
from
then,
25 years.
And then the percentage in terms of what the concessionaire will have is
now
51, 49, I believe, or majority stake in some.
But we had also said that we're not going to privatize.
It was 80-20.
Are you sure?
Drastically.
No, I haven't.
It was
seen a
something that
that
I believe the former Minister for Power, or Deputy Minister for Power, John Jinapor, always argued about.
I will have to cross check because I have not seen any document to that effect. But we agree on the substance. We all agree that.
Yeah, you all agree on the substance, but I think the modalities seem to have been tweaked.
Yeah, the implementation.
Exactly. And indeed,
the modalities have been tweaked to I think reflect what the objective of the Ghanaian people.
I will find out. As I said, I am not conceding that because I have not verified.
Please go and find out.
I'll do. But be as it may, we all agree that the way it has been, the way it is currently, is not sustainable. There is a need to bring about some level of efficiency to ensure that at least we have stable and affordable power supply. We all know the importance of the distribution of power and how that relates to economic growth. I mean, you name it. There is no industry that you can think of that would not make use of power. And if you cannot distribute it efficiently, then quite clearly it stifles our progress. But you see, going through, I also noticed, you know, the bidders conference and how transparent the process has been. And I would have wished that the 2.25 billion bond would have also gone through a process like this that would have been very transparent.
That's mischief.
No, it's not mischief. It is not mischief.
It's not related to
you have.
What is the relation?
Because bidders, the 2.25 billion bond was also bidded for in 4 hours. Something that is, yes, the bid was open, and in 4 hours it was closed. Something that, by usual standard, should take at least a minimum of 2 days and a maximum of 2 weeks. So, you know, this is good. I like it.
It's just because
open,
you think it doesn't conform to the norm. But it's
open,
not
transparent.
It doesn't go against the grain as far as the rules are.
Exactly. So this one,
I'm saying that what transpired
is
not illegal.
I have no qualms about this.
I'm saying that.
But I have qualms about the 2.5.
I'm saying that what transpired.
You know,
what is your problem? You have reported this matter to the Securities and Exchange Commission of America.
If the same government can initiate a process like this and organize a bidders conference and give timelines, and yet you can open a bid for a bond of 2.25 billion, which it's
not the government that's doing it. It's already part of the schedule.
But the government is responsible. Why are we quoting government ministers?
In terms of what the action plan is.
Why are we quoting government ministers?
Okay, let's look at this. Because my colleague spoke to engineer Owura Kwekusafo, and he is the chief executive for MIDA. So Israel spoke to him and would want to Listen in or watch that conversation.
This afternoon, we'll have one-to-one meetings with each of the bidders where we'll go through each of the terms. We'll also find out if they have got any issues, and we'll discuss in detail. But based on initial discussions that we've had since yesterday, things appear positive, but we need to meet some more and see how things go. Originally, we had projected to have this bidders conference in October last year, and now we are sitting in May, so we are talking about more than 7 months. However, the timeline is that we need to have financial close of the private sector participation by early September 2018.
And that has not been affected?
That has not been. That is a deadline that will not move. Now, if we do not meet that deadline, then we will lose the second tranche of the Million Challenge funding in the sum of $190 million. We are working to meet that deadline, and as it is now, that is what we are trying to do.
Right, so between now and the September 2018 date you're looking at, what are we expecting to happen?
Between now and September 2018, we are going to have another bidders conference. Bidders are going to do due diligence of ECG facilities, assess and everything. At the end of the day, they will send in their comments. We will issue a revised RFP based on the addenda that have been issued, and then hopefully by October this year we will receive their proposals. These proposals will be evaluated. They will then will go through a set of approvals, that are required, meaning approval by middle board, approval by cabinet, approval by parliament, and then by April 2018 we are required to sign, or government will sign an agreement with the selected concessionaire. Then the concessionaire will start the process of taking over. And then by September 2018, there will be financial close of the transaction so that by October, November, they can take over finally.
Now, some of the things that have come up as far as the workers union of ECG are concerned, has to do with, one, job security, which is something that government is looking at. They've also been arguing that we need to have some Ghanaian, participation in it, local content participation. Now, that has also been happening, being included by virtue of the fact that we have this 51% majority stake. But the other issue that's outstanding, which you've explained before, but I'd like you to clarify, has to do with the Article 7.1 issue. Please explain that to us again.
Well, there is some misunderstanding around Article 7.1. Let me explain that the Article 7.1, which talks about how we deal with conflicts between the compact provisions and domestic law, seeks to address two main areas. It seeks to address the issues of procurement, and it seeks to address the issues of tax. So to ensure that, because under the compact, we elected that we will go by the Million Challenge Corporation procurement guidelines, and that is what is being used in all the procurement activities that have been done. And under the compact also, there are provisions on tax, and so it's set to deal with that issue. Now, but based on concerns that have been raised, I think there have been discussions with Million Challenge Corporation saying that implementation letters will be issued to explain and delineate what Article 7.1 means, and I believe that will address the issue.
So who will it address the issue for? Will it address the issue for the workers who are raising the concern, or for the bidders?
It will address the issue for Ghana, because the concerns have been raised by Ghanaians. Ghanaians thought that the way that provision is, it meant that the laws of Ghana were subordinate to the laws of the United States. No. In fact, the compact is not based on U.S. law. The compact is based on international law. And what that provision said was that in the case of conflict between the compact provisions and domestic law, then the compact provisions will prevail. Now, so these implementation letters will seek to explain that and make everyone comfortable with the arrangement.
The old man is...
that's Engineer Owura Kwekusafo. He's the Chief Executive for the Millennium Development Authority. And 2018, we have no alternative, Mr. Chamanteja, to make sure that we sign this. But at the end of the day, the workers are saying that, be it as it may, because a private entity will be coming in, definitely the cost of power will be more expensive than it is.
You see, I think that as a nation, we must be averting our minds to some things. Technology will change a lot of things. Lately, I have been reading some articles, and it frightens me.
Me
The
too.
last one I
Me
was
too.
reading was about cars.
Yes.
Somebody is predicting that by 2030, 90% of the cars used in Europe and America will be
Remotely controlled.
or
Driven by
by
artificial
power.
intelligence.
Robots.
Or no,
Not even apart from the robots.
Self-driven.
Self-driven, and number two, there will not be internal combustion engines. It will be powered by electricity.
So it means that people will be losing their lives.
There will be fewer.
People will be losing
The
their
internal
work.
combustion engine has 2,000 parts to make it work. This one, so all this thing about going to garage, going to this, they are claiming that the car can run for 1.6 million miles before you need to change.
Goodness.
You know,
How many lifetimes would that be?
People will lose their livelihoods. People will lose their earnings, right?
They are predicting that very soon accountants might not be needed. Very soon, even doctors might not be needed. You know, the reality is that very soon, today, people still come to read your postpaid meter. I am certain that in another year or two, you don't even need to go to the point to buy electricity for your meter. At the touch of a button on your phone, on your Android, you will be able to
I'm
know
sure it will happen
electricity.
by next 2 years in Ghana.
It's happening in other
You understand? And when this happens, certainly the man who comes to read the meter in your house will be redundant. I think that we must be bracing ourselves. Oncoming, it's coming. It certainly is coming.
Right.
And for me, I think what most of the people must be looking at is, can in the process, in the transition, can we train ourselves to do something? Okay. In the process, can we train ourselves to do something?
You are saying that the workers are just fighting an inevitable cause.
It is inevitable in the sense that technology drives everything in the world now. And I think that this is a conversation the unions must engage in. The things that used to happen 20 years ago. First, when I was growing up in Kumasi, there was nothing called a postpaid meter, a prepaid meter. Along the line, prepaid meters came. Along the line, now today we all go to a vendor and buy power. Sometimes your power goes off at 12 o'clock in the night, and I'm telling you, I am certain that in the next year, we will be buying power like we buy phone credits and send mobile money.
You are even talking Ghana, because we're even lagging.
Look, in Rwanda, they do this.
I think in Kenya too.
Okay.
In Southern Africa.
So for me, I can understand, but I think that we must redirect the conversation.
The narrative.
We certainly must redirect it. Somebody must confront it and say that the industry is changing. Look, APAC has lived in North America before. In the past, North America was famous for things like steel production, like virtually everything was. Today, all those
automobiles and all that.
All those industries is moving away, and those that have stayed have all become robotics.
That's right.
The prediction is that by 2025, even India will become the second biggest economy in the world after China.
You know, so
everybody's predicting.
Yeah.
So
knowledge.
And
artificial intelligence will take over companies. CEOs will be robots.
I think this is what we
and
are
newsmen too.
Will be redundant.
Yeah, you all be endangered.
Yeah, I think this is not.
But nobody will come and sit and watch TV. People will watch TV because data would have improved in
there are even glasses where there are TV sets on them. You wear your eyeglasses.
So you are saying that we have to rather brace ourselves.
For me,
doomsday.
For me, I think what we need to do is for us to do a good. I think that sometimes I get surprised at the stance of the trade unions. Okay. I think that they need to step back a little and and reflect on this. There are modern trends, there are current trends that nobody can run away from. Look, it happens in all of our fields. I'm a pharmacist. The things that we used to do when I was training as a pharmacist, we used to do a pistol and mortar. Today, nobody does a pistol and a mortar.
To mix combinations. Yeah. Chloroquine, you mix
when I finished pharmacy, to supplement our incomes, we used to do Miss Mark Silicate, Miss Senaco, Miss FAC. Today, doesn't happen. Okay, it doesn't happen. The industry has moved. Every industry is moving.
And even in third world, we are even lagging.
Yeah. I am saying that we don't even need to reinvent the wheel. If it has been done somewhere and it is working and it is efficient, everybody is looking for efficiency gains now. Me, I can clearly understand what confronts them. Okay. Maybe for 40, 50 years since the inception of Electricity Company of Ghana, we have done things the same way. I think that we must wake up, particularly the Trade Unions Congress, must wake up to the reality of the changing world. It has become a knowledge-based economy that is driving the world now.
It's about your value.
Yeah, and it's not just even value, technology.
Yeah.
Sometimes the technology is not about you. Dr. Park is very valuable, but very soon they will load the archaeology lectures into a robot, and the robot will deliver it.
Well, the PowerPoint is already doing some of that already.
You understand me?
You can just synchronize it and have the voice.
I don't need you to come and chew and pour for me.
No. When I was in the university, you needed to go and even sometimes pay money to a library assistant to keep a certain book for you.
It's true.
You understand?
Library, to hide it somewhere.
To hide it somewhere for you. Because there may just be 4 or 5 copies. Goodman and Gilman, pharmacological basis of therapeutics. Okay, there were just maybe 4 copies in the library. But today, at the touch of a button, you can get Goodman and Gilman there. Everything. So you don't even need to go to the library.
Yeah. The other time
These are realities that are confronting.
I was teaching my kids through Google, and then somebody came. I should let them read. I said, no. When they grow up, everything will be found at the touch of a button. I don't have to let them go and read. That's right. Besides, they are picking things from platforms than they are picking in the books.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what do we envisage? That because of efficiency in the delivery of power, rather our fears or our trepidations or anxieties will be reduced for the consumer.
I think ideally that should be the case. That the efficiency should bring about more availability
and at less cost,
at a cost that is sustainable
and efficient.
Because all of this, if we don't achieve an improved delivery of power, then quite clearly there is no justification for this. But you see, I've had a chance to be a labor leader, a labor activist in my days in Canada. At the university when I was the student union president and later the teaching support staff union. And it is indeed the responsibility of labor leaders to advocate and agitate in protecting the rights of your members. So, you know, what the labor unions are also saying and the way they are posturing is part of their responsibility. They have to also do their best to try and minimize the impact of this compact on their membership. And as we said earlier,
since unionism started, they've been doing this. I remember from the agrarian, if you read literature from the agrarian,
that is the point I am making.
Revolution.
So they should not be faulted. But you see,
afraid of
their conduct is also predicated on the pronouncements that politicians make and the types of assurances that they give them. So if you gave them a particular assurance or you gave them a particular impression, and now you are sitting on the horse, you are in the saddle, and they see that what you had indicated to them is not what you are doing, then they have every reason
How do you mean?
to try and raise concerns.
I don't get this point.
No, the point I'm making is that
who gave
the
what
labor
promise
union,
and all that?
Who gave what promise?
If you give impressions.
Who was giving what impression?
You remember when we were there? The impression was that we're going to privatize ECG.
Yeah, they say you are not doing efficiently.
No. They said we're going to privatize ECG. Well, essentially what you have said, which I said I'm going to cross-check, is that there's been a variation.
Oh, a lot of variation.
But in principle, the content of what we had proposed has not changed. So we need to be very mindful in the way we communicate to the people to make it easier for them to give us the benefit of the doubt, is the point I'm making. But I think that where this has reached,
the whole effort is
there is no turning back. You know, it is going to happen. And labor leaders also have a responsibility to advocate on behalf of their representatives. So if you ask me, I think perhaps there has to be a lot more robust engagement between the stakeholders, so that if there are any fears, because sometimes we come and talk and then we influence perceptions. But if they meet around the table and if they have any questions, any concerns about what is going to happen, if this happens, am I going to get any benefits? Am I going to be sent home without anything? Then all of these things can be ironed out.
But nobody wants to lose a good cake.
I think what happened.
You understand what I'm saying? To allay
those fears.
Those fears. But whether you like it or not, as you said, the essence of every life form is self-preservation. Whether we like it or not, labor, the unionized groups within this sector are not just going to take this line down.
I think that, first and foremost, let me correct a certain impression. If Dr. Park says that we were.
Oh, you mean the MPP while you were?
When we were in
campaigning.
Opposition. I don't think that we stated categorically. I don't believe so.
He says you gave an impression.
Well,
he's not saying you promised.
I don't know what impression it was, but just as he says he needs to go and verify, I will also have to verify what he claims we said. I don't believe so. Number one. Number two, to say that nothing has changed is not true. The ends, we seek to arrive at the same end. But you see, I think that it is the implementation that we have tried to make it better. The president is on record as saying that for him, his direction is that nobody should be forced out of work in this transition period.
But we said the same thing.
Well, then they were not listening.
So the point
they
is
were
that,
not listening to you.
So why is Labour still worried?
They were not listening to you.
Variation.
They were not listening to you. They are listening to President Akufo-Addo. Okay.
Change has come.
The change is here. We live in change.
Yes.
I think the president has been explicit. I believe that the vice president has said the same thing. I think that the minister has said the same thing, and all of us that follow them are saying the same thing. But the reality, as for me, I am talking about long term. I think this is something that we are not discussing adequately in this country. Look, science and technology is evolving, and it will change. It will change the way we do things in this country. We have no choice. We must begin to let
it's changing so fast. It's frightening.
I mean, look, printing industry.
We have no choice.
10 years ago,
today,
the things that were available, even these gadgets, 10 years ago.
I don't see why we are still, a few years ago there was a big problem with the printing of atlases. You remember?
Now you don't need it.
You won't need an atlas.
Macmillan and then we'll have contract issues and all that.
Who need an atlas?
No, nobody needs it.
Do you need a roadmap when you have Google?
No.
Yeah. You remember?
You can drive from here to Fumbisi.
A to Z.
And you'll be surprised, even those that we claim don't have formal education.
Yeah.
There are pointers with these gadgets that they follow.
money transfer. It has made life so easy and simple for everybody. A park does not need to go to the bank to get a postal order
to send to his daddy. Or
when we're here, he told me his father is calling him.
Yes.
Maybe he needs to send some money.
Very well.
He doesn't need to
I
go
have
to
my passport.
He has a
passport
on his. He will just punch and in real time the father can go receive the money. These are changes that has come on us, and we must begin to clearly. I think that For me, this is not really part of our discussion, but I think that as a people, we must begin to let the people know and appreciate and frame themselves to get into this. Otherwise, I think that the problems we will have, not being on time with technology, will be worse than probably our economic malaise.
We'll be in trouble. At the end of the day, we shouldn't be afraid of privatization. Do you think that we'll come to a point where it will extend to the other, either power generating, producing, because now we're having it in distribution?
Well, by and large,
well, one day, let's say,
we were
VRA
never opposed to privatization. And indeed, we, as a nation, I think we have a public-private partnership policy. And we all agree that, indeed, private participation, quite clearly, is always very important. It brings about a lot of efficiency. I mean, we know this colonial mentality that we have, where there is the unjustified belief that once an institution is public-owned, any and everyone can run it, as Muta Baruka would say, any which way, you know, without paying attention to the rules, regulations, and if you like, guidelines about how to make that institution efficient. So we have never been opposed to that. But at least for strategic assets, it is always very important that we keep the state ownership above the private ownership, so that it can be a blend of a private and public partnership to work.
You want to say a last word? I want us to wrap up.
I'm happy to hear Dr. Park speak this way.
Oh, but
I think that my political philosophy is winning. Is winning the argument.
So it means you're going to be where you are.
I am.
It means you're going to be where you are.
I am an unrepentant right of center. I believe in the market, and I am happy that the Social Democrats and the Socialists, when Apark was in the university, he probably was even a communist.
You look like one.
They are all beginning to clearly appreciate.
So was Female.
They are all beginning to appreciate that it is the market that leads the way. For me, I am ardent in my belief that it is not the business of government to do business. It is the business of government to govern.
What about strategic assets?
Let us define what a strategic asset is.
Power supply.
BCG.
As far back as President Rawlings, you were giving IPPs.
I'm saying that
Saka and Tapa were all given out by President Rawlings. Private IPPs,
strategic
independent
assets.
Oh, it's my friend, I say IPPs.
We have to call it a morning.
Emmanuel
Tremantinge is a member of Parliament for Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency, and thanks for joining me, the two of you, and Dr. Clement Park, member of Parliament for Busa South. Busa South.
If you say North, Agaga will come after you.
I'm telling you. I nearly said North.
So my pussy Busa Mena.
Okay.
Atebajiam.
That
means I thank them.
You thank them. All right. So that'll be it for the morning. We have a lot more conversation on the show. Please get interactive. Join us on TV. Is the page on Facebook. We've been streaming live there. And we also have your interactive handle on Twitter. Join us on TV. We have a couple of your messages. We'll read a couple and then call it a morning for the show. As far as this segment is, Professor, I think this one says, Professor Marty shot himself in the foot for calling others who criticize government as uncivilized, but unfortunately for him, he also insulted himself because he criticized the regime. Alhaji Willie P. in Ifia Kuma. And this one also from God is punishing those from Central Region for voting the NDC out after all they benefited from them by bringing the Army M to destroy their farms. I believe there's a climate change issue. Please, the state don't trust the Army. They should move them away and send policemen and stop embarrassing the armed forces. Okay, and I'm sure you're speaking to a subject of from the Land and Natural Resources Ministers of the Observation. Good morning. In South Africa, there's a viewer. We buy power using our phones. Ghana should quicken up. Right. We're wasting time. Okay.
Hey, Reverend.
Well, thank you very much. And we're talking herbal medicines, and we're talking orthodox medicine practitioners and the way they practice medicine in Ghana and how we can mainstream that into both ways and make sure we give good diagnosis to the average patient who visits the health facility. And that's up next with Mama Vio Sabwaji. We're taking a break. When we come back, that conversation. Stay on.